Now, as CNN News 18 covers the G20 Summit tomorrow and day after, we're going to have a host of reporters joining us to get us more on the latest updates and developments. We're going to give you a short glimpse of that today. We have CNN News 18's Abhishek Jha, we have CNN News 18's Aman Sharma, CNN News 18's Siddhant Mishra, and CNN News 18's Arnima joining us right now. Good morning, everybody. Again, the G20 Summit tomorrow and day after. It's a very exciting moment for India's G20 presidency. Siddhant, I'm going to be coming to you first. Tell us more about where you are. Tell us more about the preparations that are made for world leaders who are arriving and which hotels they're going to be staying at.
Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium, and perhaps in some time from now, the counter here at Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium will open up for the accredited journalists. So all the accredited journalists are going to be coming first to Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. From here to the ITPO Bharat Mandapam, there is going to be a shuttle service for the journalists, and through that using that shuttle service, all journalists are going to go to the main venue where we are expecting Foreign Secretary Vinay Kumar Quatra to address a press conference on India's plan for G20. He will be sharing the details of what all events are going to take place, the whole schedule, the program, including the gala dinner, which has been planned by India tomorrow evening. And then what is going to be the plan for day after tomorrow. So we can expect that press conference to take place at around 2:30 in the afternoon, and that one press conference is going to be for the journalists to lay out the complete roadmap of the G20 event. Since given the security concern, nobody is allowed to come to the ITPO directly in their cars, not even journalists, not even bureaucrats and politicians. They all will be using shuttle service to reach the venue. And also, since the arrangements are concerned, then more than 21 hotels all across the Delhi have been booked by foreign delegates, embassies, for heads of state, heads of governments, and other dignitaries belonging to world organizations participating in the G20 Summit. The guests have already started arriving. Perhaps we can also witness some high-profile guests later in the day. The Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is landing in the afternoon. Then we can expect American President landing at around 7 p.m. Late in the evening. And along with that, all the dignitaries, Emmanuel Macron, Rishi Sunak, they all are going to arrive in Delhi today. But as far as engagements with Prime Minister is concerned, then we have been told that in total 3 bilateral meetings are going to take place today with Prime Minister Modi. The 2 meetings have been confirmed. One is going to be between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi at around 8:15 late in the evening. And one other bilateral meeting which Prime Minister Modi is going to hold is with Sheikh Hasina at 5:30 in the evening. So these 2 bilateral meetings have been confirmed. We are also looking for the confirmation of the 3rd bilateral meeting which PM is going to hold. And then from tomorrow morning we can expect the regular opening of the G20 session at Bharat Mandapam. Back to you.
Absolutely. Siddhant, we also want to bring in CNN News 18's Arnima, who's joining us live. She's actually near the Oberoi Hotel. Arnima, good morning. Can you tell us more about the security arrangements that are now in place? Because one of the big worries is, of course, about, in the incident of a terror attack, what exactly happens?
Yeah, so we are, on the border of the New Delhi district and the Southeast district. You do know that New Delhi district has been shut down for public vehicle movement, and therefore the security bandobast here is quite tight. All these DTC buses behind me in the frame are carrying paramilitary personnel who have been deployed across this area. There are also cranes that have been set up to ensure that if there is any vehicle which is wrongly parked or which breaks down, that is immediately removed from here. The streets here are being regulated as well. Private vehicles who have proper identification, they are being allowed to go up till a certain point, but no autos were allowed. That's something we noticed. TSRs will not be allowed is something Delhi police said. Now the road that Guneet is showing you is the one that leads to Oberoi Hotel and also Hotel Lodhi. That's where the delegation from Oman is staying. Also the delegation from Russia is housed, and the delegation from Korea. So this is an important stretch, and traffic is regulated at this stretch. As far as security bandobast goes, there is of course the Delhi police, there is the CRPF, the NSG, the BSF, the SSB. So the entire paramilitary contingent will be spread out across nooks and corners of Delhi. What is it that they will be looking at? A, that the roads are kept clean, there is no traffic movement in the New Delhi area. B, that they will be carrying out sanitization exercises, so checking, cross-checking every lane, every by-lane to ensure that there is no lapse as far as anti-sabotage drills are concerned. Once the dignitaries arrive, especially in the Aerocity and the Moti Bagh hotels, from there till Bharat Mandapam, the carcades will ensure that the delegates are carried to their designated summit destinations by trained drivers with proper contingency plan in place. So let me show you once again. There is this TSR, this auto trying to cross over to the Oberoi side, and the traffic police stopping them. So all the TSRs, and this is very close to the Nizamuddin railway station as well. So even though the railway stations are open, metro is what police is encouraging. Auto services are not being allowed in this area, and even as I speak to you, a busload full of paramilitary personnel carrying women commandos move towards Hotel Oberoi and move towards the destination. So that vehicle which is carrying personnel, that's the mood on the road right now. Outside of New Delhi area, we also travelled from Noida towards this side. The Ashram area, the South Delhi area, traffic is being allowed to move in, so there's no problem as far as rest of Delhi is concerned. Even if the weekend is here and people mostly are staying indoors, and it's early morning yet, but so far there's no problem outside of NDMC area here in Delhi. People are being allowed to move about.
Absolutely, Arnima. Thank you so much for that. Do stay with us. We also want to cross over to CNN News 18's Foreign Affairs correspondent Abhishek Jha, who also is with us on this broadcast. Abhishek, you've been in constant touch with foreign diplomats. What exactly is the sentiment in the run-up to the G20, especially when it comes to whether or not a joint statement is going to be able to be realized at the end of the summit?
So while there is a palpable confusion whether the joint statement will be out because of the clear divide that G7 dominated West, and of course Russia-China collaboration on several issues on the globe right now, there is a sense of urgency on having a deliberation and discussion on several issues of importance, that is food security, energy security, supply chain resilience that the world is facing currently because of the dependence on one country, too much of dependence on one country, and how can alternative destination for manufacturing can be developed. The critical technology, energy transition is something that is also on the mind of people. Climate change is on the agenda. Prime Minister Modi, what Indian presidency has done, has tried to ensure the aspect that has been long ignored in this mega grouping of elite club. He has tried to push the voice of global south into the main agenda of the meeting, and we have seen in the month of January only India hosting about 120 leaders from across the world on the issue of what is the demand, what is the crisis among the countries in the global south, and those issues that were discussed during the month of January, they will also be discussed and deliberated during this summit talks. African Union, which did not have any participation in G20 so far, is going to become a permanent member from this year onwards, and that is also kind of achievement for India. At the same time, India is trying to bring the divide from the global south to the Western dominated agenda globally, and how this will bring out the positive outcomes, that is something more important. You are right. The joint communique is something that is very India has been hard pressed for. Like there is a clear divide on this issue of Ukrainization. Russia does not want the G20 to be an issue that is centered around Ukraine. Prime Minister, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has also in the past said that Ukraine, or talking about any security-related aspect around the globe, has never been an agenda or the mandate for G20. And G20 is a group which talks about the developmental goals, financial architecture, and how collaboration is needed among several countries on the issues of modern crisis and geopolitical crisis, or security crisis or security situation, something that G20 has always avoided to talk about. So while the aftermath of the Ukraine-Russia war that has resulted in a crisis of fuel, fertilizer, and food, that will probably have statements coming from the leaders. India has avoided to talk about Ukraine or making it the center point agenda as the West has wanted, and that has been one of the reasons why there has been a divide among the G7 nations and Russia-China coalition as well.
Absolutely. Abhishek, do stay with us. We also want to cross over to CNN News 18's Anshul Singh, who also joins us live. Anshul, you're joining us from Akshardham. Tell us more about the security arrangements, the traffic arrangements. What are the curbs that people of Delhi need to be aware of as the G20 summit takes place tomorrow and day after?
So yes, over the past few days, the Delhi police has been trying to give this message that the traffic arrangements that have been put in place are very liberal in nature and people won't be stopped from travelling to their destinations, and that is what we are seeing on the ground over here, especially at the Akshardham junction. We came all the way here from Noida, and if you could see in the visuals over here, the traffic movement at this point in time is absolutely free-flowing. None of the vehicles are being stopped. The non-destination vehicles are being stopped at Noida itself, and they are being asked to take the eastern and western peripherals to reach their destinations. Whereas the vehicles who want to enter the national capital, they are freely being allowed to do so. Even TSR taxis are being allowed to enter the national capital, not in the NDMC area specifically, but yes, the areas in the nearby areas. For example, this is one of the corridors that has been set up by the Delhi police for free movement of traffic, and that is what we are seeing over here. There is absolutely zero restrictions that have been put in place over here. These are just the barricades for contingency that has been put out here right outside Akshardham. If you could see, the buses are also being allowed to ply across this route as well. So yes, you can imagine that how the traffic management that has been done is done in a very liberal manner. But yes, till at this point in time, the guests have still not started moving towards the Bharat Mandapam, and hence we are seeing that there is a lot of relaxation that has been given at this point in time. But once the main event starts, we can expect some more restrictions to kick in, some more checks to start. People will start to feel the kind of the situation developing once the movement of the delegates will start. But yes, since this is early morning, at this point in time, there is absolutely no restrictions in people who want to enter the national capital, and without reaching the NDMC area or the central Delhi area, they are allowed to reach their destinations wherever they want to go, except for entering the NDMC area.
Absolutely. Anshul, do stay with us. Well, let's also cross back over to CNN News 18's foreign affairs correspondent Abhishek Jha, who also remains with us on the broadcast. Abhishek, why do you think India has chosen to make climate change one of its main focuses when it comes to the G20 summit? Because historically in the past, the G20 has largely been criticized for not focusing enough on climate change.
You see, there could be two reasons. First, the kind of natural calamities we have seen in the recent past has been unprecedented that the world has not seen for several decades. We have seen flood in Pakistan. We have seen landslide and in the hills of India this year. Currently, Spain, Turkey, Greece, they are facing the nature's wrath as in terms of heavy flooding there. We have seen number of tornadoes. They have increased in USA. Several of the storm have also impacted China. So the natural calamity is not now limited to one part of the world. It has spread all across, and it is, in fact, it is doing more damage economically than any other crisis could do to the world. And this is one of the reasons why India has been also trying to push that climate change is going urgent and world needs to work on this. Then there are several small island nations that are in Pacific or in other part of the world which have existential crises that if the temperature soars and if the melting glaciers ensure that the sea levels are rising for like few inches or few meters also, their existence will just diminish. We have seen several kilometers of Bangladesh territory going into the sea in the recent decades. So these are not an imaginary situation. These are the situations that world needs to address urgently, and probably one of the reasons why the climate change needs to be talked about. Now, China has one of the scaled up capacity and technology to work on electronic vehicles or electronic batteries, and that needs to be a very essential part of anything that the world wants to have energy transition from the fossil fuels to the renewable energy. Also, there are other countries which wants to have focus on the renewable energy or energy transition, but they don't have the capacity or the funding. The West had committed about $100 billion for the funding of energy transition in several developing countries, but that funding has not come in the recent years, and the West has obviously other priorities, including Ukraine-Russia war, where they have been putting billions of dollars every now and then. So while there can be geopolitical tension around the world, there can be other important issues at the world, but something that is very existential to humanity, something that needs to be addressed urgently, that is climate change. That also needs the attention and the focus of the world leaders, and this is why India has been pushing for the climate change. India, at its own part, has tried to achieve the target set for energy transition, and it has achieved all those targets that it has set for 2030 by now. And there are other things like India is working on solar energy, wind energy, green hydrogen is something that has been very talk of time. Biofuels, India has transitioned about 10% mixing of ethanol into petroleum, and the target is to ensure 30% of biofuels by 2030. So India on its part is doing much, but the point is, unless until West, who have been the major emitters in terms of CO2 and other greenhouse gases, unless until they come forward and they try to share the technology and the finances with the other part of the world, the overall climate situation or the overall talk on the climate, that will remain just on table and it will not translate into the realities on the ground.
Absolutely. Abhishek, I want you to stay with us right now. We're just going to tell our viewers a little bit more about the visuals that we're showing them on their screens right now. This is essentially the aircraft that is carrying the Argentinian President Alberto Fernandez, who is now arriving in Delhi, in India, for the G20 Summit, which is taking place this weekend. Remember, there's less than a day to go. Crossing back over to CNN News 18's Abhishek Jha. You know, Abhishek, when we're talking about leaders that are now arriving and will continue to arrive for the summit that's taking place tomorrow and day after, I think it's also important to talk about the so-called dragon in the room, Xi Jinping, who's not going to be attending. Tell us more about that.
Of course, there was this speculation that Xi Jinping might not attend. There could be several theory why Xi Jinping is not attend. Probably there is a lot of domestic issues that he's having at hand right now. Also, it could be something that India and China have had bilateral issues. We have seen in the Galwan clash, the bilateral issues have not been so good. Prime Minister Modi had a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Johannesburg on the sidelines of BRICS, and people were thinking that that would take some sort of normality between the two sides, and Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Delhi would probably give more window of opportunity to both sides to have discussion on several issues of bilateral importance. But India has been consistent, and India has insisted upon the disengagement and de-escalation from the Chinese side. And unless until that happens, the border tension cannot let other aspects of bilateral relationship be normal. And that has been India's stance, which China has probably not liked much. It wanted to have this border dispute, put in an appropriate position, which means that the issues will be keep discussing. But other aspects of bilateral ties, trade, commerce, people engagement, technology transfer, energy transition, or the collaboration at the multiple institutions around the world like WTO and UN, those should be something that the India and China should discuss. So this has been the Chinese perspective, which India has totally denied, and probably that could be one of the reasons why Chinese side is not very willing to engage with India, too much. But again, these are not confirmation. We know that Chinese side is sending Prime Minister Li Qiang, who will be representing Chinese delegation to Delhi. President Putin, Russia's president, is not coming. In fact, he has been missing G20 for the last three summits, from Rome to Bali. That was last year. He did not appear. Sergei Lavrov has been his man to represent Russian side, and this time also he is coming. He's in Dhaka, and today evening he'll be arriving in Delhi, where he'll be participating from the Russian side. So while there could be differences, but at the multilateral platforms, normally countries try to avoid their bilateral differences and ensure that the issues of common concern or common challenges, they are discussed and deliberated. And this G20 will also try to achieve that normalcy, at least among the multiple differences.
Absolutely. Abhishek, do stay with us. When it comes to a few follow-up questions, I want to bounce off of what you were just talking about. The fact that Xi Jinping is not going to be attending. Putin, as expected as well, is also not going to be attending. This is, of course, in the backdrop of the Russia-Ukraine war, which began last year, February 24th. All right, on that note, we have some breaking news coming in. We're going to be shifting focus to that.